You open a can of corned beef, ready to toss it into a salad. And wait. It's all deep red meat. Not a single kernel of corn in sight. A small visual trick. But the real twist is even funnier. This dish not only contains no corn, it has never had anything to do with corn in its entire history. It sounds like the title of a comedy. Yet it's actually the result of centuries of war, trade, and the hard labor of Irish farmers. So the question pops up almost automatically. Who put the corn in corned beef? And why choose a name that misleads practically everyone, just when you think that's the end of it? A medieval linguistic secret enters the scene, dragging along a social story in which Ireland's national dish wasn't even meant for the Irish. That familiar moment of digging through the can and finding no corn often leads to the obvious theory. Maybe the manufacturer forgot. But rewind the clock to around the 12th century, when Old English was filled with unfamiliar expressions, and you'll see that corn didn't mean bright yellow American maize. It simply meant grain, any kind of grain. In the case of salted beef, those grains were large crystals of salt, sometimes as big as peppercorns, so large that farmers had to crush them with hammers. The confusion begins with a shift in meaning. After the 16th century, when Europeans encountered maize from the Americas, the word corn gradually narrowed to refer specifically to this new crop. The older meaning large grains of salt faded from everyday hearing. The dish, however, kept its name. It held on to the old world definition like a linguistic fossil sitting quietly on a modern supermarket shelf. But the twists don't stop there. Turn to Ireland, the country most famously associated with corned beef, and you run into another paradox. The people who produced it for centuries rarely ate it. If corn misleads us materially, Irish corned beef misleads us socially. So, who actually consumed it? Today, corned beef feels inseparable from Ireland, as if it had accompanied the Irish people for 1,000 years. Yet in the 17th and 18th centuries, the reality was harsher. It was primarily an export product. Irish farmers raised cattle, harvested salt, and developed large-scale processing industries. But most of the finished product was shipped to England for the wealthy or loaded onto vessels to feed naval fleets and armies. At the time, a single portion of corned beef could cost the equivalent of several days' wages for a poor laborer. The result was a strange contradiction. A luxury food produced in the kitchens of those who could barely afford to taste it. It's like growing cacao your entire life without ever sampling a fine piece of chocolate. This irony turned corned beef into a double symbol, both a point of commercial pride for Ireland and evidence of deep economic inequality during colonial times. As centuries passed, the meat kept changing roles, from aristocratic fare to naval ration, then to a staple among Irish immigrants in the United States. Still, one question lingers. How did it last long enough to survive months at sea? It almost seems like a time-traveling can of meat. To answer that, we leave the history books for a moment and step into the laboratory of giant salt crystals. Before refrigeration, the world belonged to bacteria. Leave meat out for a few hours and the smell announces its decay. When humans discovered that salt could draw water out of microbial cells, it felt like magic. By producing large, pebble-sized crystals called corns of salt, they dramatically improved preservation. The mechanism sounds technical, but picture it simply: bacteria need water to survive. Salt pulls water away. The bacteria starve. A slab of beef packed in coarse salt could hibernate for months, long enough to cross the Atlantic. In the 18th century, British naval ships stacked trapezoid-shaped cans of corned beef tightly together, almost like a game of Tetris, to maximize cargo space. If you've ever wondered why corned beef cans today still have that unusual trapezoid shape, it's a logistical legacy from naval supply systems. From a food forced to resist time, corned beef became a foundation of military rations. The harsher the wars, the greater the demand for meat that wouldn't spoil. Yet the story doesn't end in the ship's hold. Another quiet secret lies in language. The stubborn name that never changed, even after corn came to mean maize. Where did that persistence come from? Tracing commercial records back to at least the 17th century. The term corned beef appears regularly, clearly describing the technique of curing meat with large salt grains. When the meaning of corn shifted, the dish itself did not follow. It's like an old storefront sign that remains standing even after the shop inside has changed owners. From there, corned beef branched into unexpected directions. In 19th century New York, Jewish butchers developed kosher versions, unintentionally turning it into an immigrant icon. In Hong Kong, it found its way into noodle soups, transforming a European preserved meat into a beloved breakfast staple. Each culture added its own layer of meaning to the meat. Yet the original name remained quietly echoing an age when coarse salt was cutting-edge technology. Eating corned beef today feels a bit like biting into history. You think you're enjoying an ordinary canned product, but you're actually tasting a 4-century journey of language, war, migration, and irony. If you enjoy uncovering how simple foods hide detective-level backstories, stay tuned to this channel. The next story might explore another everyday item whose name has been misleading us for decades. Who knows? It could be a spice sitting right in your kitchen. All you have to do is follow along so you don't miss the reveal.